Welcome back to the Rollup TV. Today is The Signal, powered by Boundless mainnet beta. We have a slew of projects, great founders and people coming on today to talk about what it means to prove the entire Ethereum consensus. Also, just get some updates from what they're doing on their side. Stoked on that. We have an amazing lineup today. Tons of great guests. We got 𝘗𝘳𝘧𝗏 from Stellar. That token's been ripping. Those guys are doing great work. One of the OGs from the 2017 era. Shiv from Boundless, the new CEO. Obviously, got to talk to him about what's going on with the mainnet beta, with that announcement. They absolutely crushed. We got Sreeram from EigenCloud, also known as 𝘗𝘯𝘵. We got Robinson from Wormhole, a good friend of the show. Declan from Linea, who I love to mess around with and have some fun with. And Michael from Nethermind. So great crew today. It's another beautiful day in Sweden. It's 7:40 p.m. I'm ripping the Coke Zero. I got some water. No AC here in Europe. I don't know how they do no AC in Europe. I don't know what to say. I think the Genius Act is getting voted on as we speak. We should get some live updates from the timeline. Let's have a damn good stream. Markets are ripping. And yeah, we're going to get our first guest in here. We got 6 guests today, and I think there might be a surprise guest as well. So looking forward to that. And we're going to get 𝘗𝘳𝘧𝗏 in here quickly. So looking forward to getting that rocking and rolling. Here we go. We got 𝘗𝘳𝘧𝗏 coming up. Guys, it's going to be a banger stream. We have 6 guests plus a potential surprise one. As I said, looking forward to it. Yeah, let's jump in. We're live from Sweden. From Sweden. Yeah, just in case you didn't hear it the first time, we're live from Sweden. Market's ripping. I missed the 𝘗𝘠𝘵 airdrop today. That token launched at 1.4 bill. It's pumping to 1.8. Glad to see that. Our fund invested in like the Series A, so that looks good. But I saw ICO Beast post about the airdrop today. A bit bummed. But that's what happens when you're not paying attention, is what it is. So that, amongst with Crypto Week in the USA, are the main kind of macro topics. Trump was going to fire Powell, but pulled off that, so that's good. And yeah, I mean, let's have a damn stream, guys. This is going to be a marathon. We got, like I said, 6 guests and maybe a potential surprise one. It's hot as hell in Sweden. I don't know what's going on, but we're going to push through. We're going to have some fun. Can somebody please tell me where Robbie is? Where's Robbie? Oh, I know where Robbie is. He's not on the stream, but he'll be back. Next week, following week, he's going to be back. He'll be in action, and we'll be ready to have him on. So looking forward to getting him back, getting the gang back together. While it is fun doing these things solo, it is more fun with Rob, more dynamic. Frankly, this is a very, very technical kind of ZK conversations today amongst other broader blockchain infrastructure talk. So excited about that. Kind of brings us full circle back to the original, the Rollup content strategy back in the depths of the bear in 23 into 24, all the way up until about Q1 this year. Seemingly, we've grown into this new live format, which you've seen get adopted quite a bit across crypto, Twitter, media, and I think it's just going to keep accelerating. I've seen more and more pop up, so you'll keep seeing them. But just remember, the Rollup TV was the first in the crypto industry to be ripping live streams, interviews, on air, multiple guests. We have gamified segments coming up. We've got unique things coming up. I can't spill too much, but it's going to happen, and we're ready for it. So yeah, guys, we're going to get 𝘗𝘳𝘧𝗏 up here shortly, and he's in the back end. He's getting ready, all set up, and we're going to have a damn stream. Pour one out. Going to be a bit of a marathon. Looking forward to it. And here he comes. So 𝘗𝘳𝘧𝗏 is the Chief Product Officer at Stellar. Stellar is one of the larger projects that's getting reception from the institutions and has always done so. So yeah, we're going to get him in here. And guys, just to have some through line between a lot of these conversations, today is all about Boundless's mainnet beta and the Signal, where they are bringing out technology to power consensus proofs to prove Ethereum finality broadly. We got 𝘗𝘳𝘧𝗏 in the back end. He's ready. We're going to get him up on stage, bring him up for his live show. I don't know if he's been on a live show like this before. Tomer, what's going on, man? Good to have you.
I'm doing great. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Welcome to the Signal, brother.
Awesome. Good to be here.
Yeah, man. Well, cool, man. Thanks for coming on. Stoked to chat. I think it's actually my first time speaking to your company in the 5 years that I've done content on podcasting, etc. You guys have been crushing it on a lot of the institutional brand stuff and just broadly getting distribution amongst, just the crypto audience that I think a lot of us are trying to get. So you're the chief product officer at Stellar. I would love to just understand what you guys are working on, most focused on today. I got a bunch of other questions, but let's lay the foundation for what your core focus is right now as a chief product officer. Welcome to the Rollup. Welcome to the Signal, brother.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. And I'm glad after 5 years that we're finally intersecting. So Stellar is an L1 really focused on real world utility. Been around since 2015, so it's been a while. And really about stablecoins, payments, RWAs, all the things that are like really in trend and in the meta right now. We've really been laser focused on them for a while now. So we have things, institutional players like Franklin Templeton, who have issued more than or around $500 million worth of their Benji assets on Stellar. We have players like MoneyGram, who are actually an interoperable on and off ramp on the network, and you can cash in and out of USDC, Stellar to local cash, like 400,000 agents around the world. We have, institutions like the UNHCR dispersing funds to refugees in Ukraine, like GIZ dispersing payroll to health worker employees in northern Syria. So a lot of like really strong product market fit, real world utility. Last year, we actually introduced the biggest protocol upgrade to date, which is introducing smart contracts. Like I said, Stellar has been around since 2015, originally without smart contracts. And so now we also have a DeFi ecosystem that is actually coming into play, still kind of nascent. I think we have around $150 million in TVL right now, but growing. And we're seeing this really cool intersection where wallets can offer a what we call like a cash to DeFi experience. So in the same wallet, they can actually do a cash in through MoneyGram and then go into like a yield bearing instrument, like the Blend protocol, for example, which is a yield bearing protocol, lending borrowing protocol on Stellar. And so we're seeing this kind of like awesome intersection between traditional finance and DeFi finally starting to come into play, providing like real world utility for people.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've been covering a lot of RWAs or RWA XYZ's stats in my previous, week or two's tweets, and you guys have been consistently up there across different verticals. And I mean, I think that having a really fast, cheap L1 with a lot of Lindy is what a lot of these, institutions are looking for, as well as just like your I think the distribution strategy of trying to go out there and kind of bridge that gap. What is some advice you have for some of the, players, chains, et cetera, who are trying to kind of make that institutional push, as it seemingly is the most important part of, the crypto stack strategy, you could argue today? What are some of the things that have worked for you guys when it comes to actually interfacing with these people? What value are they looking for? How does Stellar provide that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So, one thing is that, we've been around for 10 years now, really, keeping our eyes on the ball and really focused on this core use case of what do we call everyday financial instruments. And I think the main problem in this like larger ecosystem of crypto is that there's always, like the current trend, whether it's like, meme coins, NFTs, whatever. And so it's really easy to get distracted in like token drama. But at the end of the day, the same playbook for succeeding in Web3 should be the playbook that we've been using in Web 2 for the past 34 years, which is product market fit, delivering real value for people, and kind of like fundamentals, right? I think we're really stuck in the larger crypto ecosystem with like vanity metrics, with really kind of like looking under the street lamp rather than actually figuring out how to provide value for people. And so I think for Stellar, it's really been about building this accessibility infrastructure, which is really important because, I assume you're here in the States. I'm here in New York, getting access to
I'm in Sweden, brother.
Oh, you're in Sweden. Okay, cool.
This is a live show from Sweden. Welcome to the Signal, man.
Sorry about that. Okay.
I'm just fucking around.
So it's really accessibility in crypto is really is kind of like not a solved issue. I think that a lot of times if you're in Northern Europe or if you're in the US, it's really easy to get in and out of crypto. And a lot of places in the world it's harder. In a lot of places the fees are like cumbersome. And so I think that building out this network of interoperable on and off ramps, and I gave you MoneyGram as an example, we have like more coverage around the world. You can even go in in places like Brazil, you can actually connect your like Pix account to Stellar and get like super cheap, fast on and off ramps. And so I think that infrastructure is like really important. And I also think that going back to the fundamentals, like the Stellar consensus protocol is actually a protocol that we've seen being really successful with communicating to institutional partners, because it's a consensus protocol that puts reputation front and center. And I think that a lot of times for TradFi folks, when they come into like the proof of stake or proof of work network, they're really trying to understand like what is going on here, like who is actually making, who's calling the shots, like what does governance actually look like? And I think we've seen a lot, and I think maybe you've also covered this in your show, like in the past few weeks or a couple of months, we've seen a lot of this realization in the proof of stake universe that proof of stake actually has kind of like different emerging properties than what we had originally imagined. And so suddenly people are like, okay, if a successful proof of stake network is basically just a very convoluted, complex way to point at reputable validators to actually make decisions, like you look, the Ethereum ecosystem, at the end of the day, the top stakers are Coinbase, Binance, Lido, all these like big reputable players in the ecosystem. And these are kind of like the people. So that's great, right? But why not just make that more explicit? And this is for like the big proof of stake networks. What happens with like the small ones, right? What happens when you need to actually call governance in like a small emerging ecosystem? Who's calling the shots? We saw this happen in the Sui ecosystem a couple of months ago with Cetos, where there was this hack and the validators decided to like claw back funds. Great, I support that governance decision, but I would argue that probably no one knows who these validators actually are. And so, governance is becoming like a really important thing. Traditional finance institutions are like really, they care about this a lot.
I see we have a fellow The Rollup Spicy Takes fan in the arena today. Good to have you, Tomer. And I agree broadly around the point with proof of stake, proof of work, as well as broadly around the core concept of trying to actually build for real world use cases, real value. And I think that is going to continue to be rewarded and will continue to be. Now, one thing that I think that there's been a lot of struggle with in Ethereum, which I think that part of this Boundless, the signal idea is aiming to achieve, is around interoperability with all these other chains. And so the whole idea of the signal is to essentially prove Ethereum's full consensus using ZK proofs and prove Ethereum's finality as a result of that. So I'm curious, from your perspective at Stellar, how does Boundless's efforts here, how does it help your work at Stellar in terms of interoperability with Ethereum? What makes you excited about proving Ethereum's full consensus and proving Ethereum's finality?
Yeah, so I think if we take a step back, this specific project sits at the intersection of cross-chain interoperability and then zero knowledge, two areas which we care a lot about. And so from a cross-chain interop perspective, what we're seeing is that this infrastructure that I was talking about that we built at the Stellar ecosystem, a lot of folks from other ecosystems are also interested in getting access to that. And so we're seeing people use Stellar as like an on-off ramp chain and then move funds to another chain. And that's like completely okay. We're totally down with these like use cases, and we think that's kind of like great. And so the question is, how do you offer more cross-chain interoperability solution? How do you make them more kind of like trust minimized, more robust? And this other effort that we have in place is zero knowledge. Our gateway drug into zero knowledge is actually mostly through privacy, because we really care about kind of like the privacy use case. We're seeing traditional financial institutions are asking for privacy. And so we've been building out this zero knowledge infrastructure with some of the fine folks that are also working on Risk Zero and Boundless. And the signal kind of almost came out as like a byproduct of these conversations, where we were literally at the table talking about, how important interop is, talking about how advanced ZK is getting, and kind of like moving from like a very basic building block to more, being able to prove entire applications, to being able to prove entire blocks, and being able to prove entire chains. And it just clicked to us that we were having, it sounded like two separate conversations, but actually it's the same conversation. And so I think there's a lot of potential in ZK being like the missing building block, because historically, if you look at bridges, things like IBC, for example, the getting to a really good trust minimization part required this tech. And so obviously proving Ethereum is like a first step. And we're working on a bunch of projects to get both risk zero verifier, and also get Stellar contracts themselves being able to be proven on these ZK VMs. And so what we're seeing is that eventually we see a universe with not only Ethereum, but pretty much every chain out there, part of their go-to-market will be, here is kind of like our chain compiled into like ZK VM, and this ability to prove it everywhere. And I'm really excited about this future.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think that those two specific use cases that you laid out make a ton of sense, just given first of all, the state of this kind of multi-chain world. People want to onboard into Stellar, offboard into Stellar, but they may want to do other things. You want a very safe way for them to interact in this multi-chain world and go from chain to chain. You also want private, interfaces. You want this ability to cater to institutions, to funds, to more sophisticated people who want privacy baked into certain interactions. Then more broadly speaking, right, with this broader infrastructure push, it's very clear that the accelerations in ZK have allowed things like clients to pan out, have allowed interoperability to now be something that is, that the trade-off spectrum shifts from speed and security being kind of a barbell to now, almost evading that entirely and getting the best of both worlds. Now, perhaps we still need another 100x in ZK, but at this rate, it's taking about, maybe that'll take another year. So, yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
So you mentioned that Stellar has brought on smart contracts, which is super exciting. You guys are working on kind of growing this ecosystem there. I'm curious, what from your side is the most exciting ecosystem projects in Stellar? What are some of the things that the community can do and get their hands on today? Whether it's DeFi, NFTs, community stuff. Just generally curious what's happening over there.
Yeah, so if I'd have to choose one project, there's one project called Blend in our ecosystem, which is a DeFi protocol that's basically like a building block for various type of liquidity protocols, mostly lending and borrowing. And so anyone can actually deploy their own pool on top of Blend. And not only that, but if you are a wallet operator, for example, you could offer this as a service to your customers by creating like a Blend vault in which you actually take a cut of the profits. And so what we're seeing is that a lot of the Stellar native applications, which present to a lot of the users as just kind of like a neo-banking application rather than a crypto native experience, what we're seeing is that these applications are using stablecoins as kind of like this building block of a checking account equivalent in these applications. On top of that, they could offer things like real world assets. So, we have a bunch of assets right now. Fractal Templeton, for example, Ondo is onboarding. We have Etherfuse, for example, which is a really cool project that does tokenized bonds from across the world. And so we have this layer of like RWAs that you can think of as like a high yield savings account. And then on top of that, you can offer additional yield opportunities that come from DeFi. And so wallets are offering these to the users. Users are immediately jumping in, and you see the retention numbers, they're pretty insane. So if you're already using these applications, whether it's for remittances or if you're using them as just a US dollar savings account in order to hedge against inflation wherever you're from, And so we're seeing these users are really keen to jump into more assets, to more protocols. And while the numbers are still small, the retention is really nice. So we're seeing users that use these wallets and they come back every month when they get their paycheck or when they get a remittance and they top it off. And so we're seeing a lot of stickiness at this intersection of DeFi and TradFi.
This blend project looks super interesting. I'm just having a quick look. Quite a nice DeFi summer branding on it as well, you could say, with the bottle and whatnot.
And they just did a hackathon in our ecosystem where basically they gave rewards for for people using Blend as a building block to build other DeFi instruments or other front ends. And we saw a lot of really cool projects coming out of it, and hopefully these will manifest into real products in the near future.
Yeah, man. Last thing for you that I gotta ask you, what's up with the beef and rivalry between XLM and XRP? What's going on there?
Oof, no beef at all. No beef at all. So I think I actually have good friends at Ripple. Not gonna mention them by name right now, but yeah, look, Jed McCaleb, founder of Stellar, was also the founder of Ripple, and so in the early days, that created a lot of mostly Twitter tension, to be honest. So it's on social because people get wacky on social. But I think that Ripple has actually done really cool job. I especially see them also introducing smart contracts as well, but in a very different way than Stellar. They're exploring a different direction, and I think that's cool. We're following along. I was on a panel with these folks a couple months ago, and all hugs, everything good.
Beautiful. Tom, I appreciate your time. Thanks for being a Rollup listener. I appreciate your insights as well. Thanks for joining on the Signal today, and glad that you are leveraging the power of ZK along with Boundless and their team to bring more possibilities to your ecosystem. Stoked to have you on again in a couple months as you guys rise the 𝘪𝑚.xyz charts and keep climbing. So appreciate you, man.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Salute. Cheers, man. Alrighty, guys. Up next, we've got our guy Shiv, who is the CEO of Boundless. Shiv's going to be talking about, obviously, the release, amongst other things. I feel like their strategy was pretty ballsy, going straight into mainnet beta without even launching a testnet or a public testnet. I saw Mash just post about it today. She was pretty fired up about it. So gotta see what the man himself was thinking about that decision, how that came to light. Talk about some of the partners, get a vibe check here. So we're gonna get Shiv up here in just a sec. I think he's ready in the back end, and we'll be rocking and rolling, guys. Welcome back to the Signal. Again, a celebration today among some of the best partners of Boundless's ecosystem, proving the full consensus of Ethereum, proving Ethereum finality, increasing scale, increasing interoperability. We got Shiv in the back. Let's get him up. Let's bring him up and let's chat. Shiv, welcome to the Signal, man. This is your house.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be back, and fantastic day for us and the team. We're all super tired, super pumped, as it should be. And thank you for hosting us and participating in the Signal in your own unique and fun way.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I was super curious about some of the tactical stuff here, so I can't help but ask first. You guys chose to skip a public testnet, go straight to mainnet beta, something that I think a lot of teams in the space wouldn't do. Why'd you guys do this? What was the thought process? Has it worked out the way you thought it had or it would?
Yeah. So I think you're right. It's not an easy decision, because the second we sort of pitched it to the friends of Boundless, they were like, "Wait, what are you doing? Right?" Because I think there is a comfort in saying "Oh, it's a test net, everything can break," and then going around breaking things. And that's true. But once you start accepting money, once you start having live funds providing real utility, it is hard to justify calling it a testnet. The team, of course, my challenge to the team was okay, it's a little bit of a sell. We can do that. It's a little bit more work, but that also means the bar for quality, the bar for accepting, the bar for everything really goes up a notch. Is the team ready for that? And the biggest surprise for me is the team in unison said yes. They were like, don't worry, we got this. Like, and to me, that is a vote of confidence that the team has in us, in themselves. And it was important for me to provide that vote of confidence as well.
Yeah. When it comes to actually using the when it comes to using this, kind of concept of actual real money per se, what we're actually getting is a, real capital, real real proofs. But rather than doing it, as we said, in this kind of test version, you brought it to light in what they call, or what you guys are calling, the mainnet beta. So let's get into some of the nitty gritty exactly as to what the signal is. So the signal proves Ethereum finality. Let's talk about some of the the why, and then we'll get into some of the how. Why is this such an important thing for Boundless, for the Ethereum ecosystem as a whole, for the multi-chain landscape? What does this mean for the space?
Yeah, 100%. So one key sort of like value propositions of ZK is in solving interop. It's always been the case. People have been waiting for ZK bridges and all of that. And if you actually sort of look at our landscape and the fragmentation of liquidity, who exactly is going to build the bridge? Right. So one way to sort of think about this is when England and France decided to build the tunnel. It was like years of negotiation. Each of them built half the tunnel and met somewhere in the middle. We can't expect that from chains. So it is a public utility that all the chains need to come together to build. Why? Because once you actually solve liquidity fragmentation, it solves so many other problems. We can now go up the stack, very confidently give a fantastic UX to customers, where it doesn't matter where your asset lives. You can play on any app, on any chain. You just have Web3 apps that just have access to liquidity everywhere. That is the dream, right? So if you, for example, I know you travel quite a lot as well. You go to France and all of a sudden your money in your credit union or whatever Wells Fargo account is deemed, well, not usable in France, and you have to do a bunch of transactions to move money around before you can spend any money in France. You'd be basically not traveling anywhere, to be honest. That is the kind of land we live in right now, where it's like, oh, it's an ETH app running on ETH or an EVM chain and so on. This actually solves that problem. A full sort of consensus proof allows you to trust the information on Ethereum on any chain, and vice versa. The real goal for us is to prove all the chains. And that's where we're headed. And that's what got all these partners excited. I know you spoke to Tomer from Stellar. You're going to talk to folks from Wormhole, Linea, Eigen, Nethermind. Our list of partners goes on and on. I'm sure I missed out like another dozen. And that's because they all got excited by the opportunities for their business, for their users, for their customers, and also for where we are headed. So we're super excited. We wanted to launch mainnet beta with something real. I think it's often the case that people launch with something attractive, a game or something else to just get people to click and do things. We've always been a company that has been a little bit more hardcore. I personally have a background in building businesses. My whole point is, like, if you're launching something, it has to have utility. I don't want to launch something where people just click around, have fun for like 20 minutes and then they're gone, but rather find a way to engage, find a way to understand ZK, find a way to see the promise of ZK and really internalize it. That's what the signal is. The name itself is sort of like, plays on multiple levels. We want to signal out to the world that the promise of ZK is being delivered. We want to invite people to come, join, participate, learn. And the fantastic thing is people have responded in so many ways. We've already collected $200,000 in like unique small donations for people to like vote on what the next chain should be to prove. This is going to be an unstoppable sort of journey. We really, really hope that this never stops and we have this public good running forever. And frankly, it's going to change the landscape in one big way. And then, the next big things just follow up one after the other.
Yeah, man. I mean, I appreciate your lens on how this impacts the space. It's got the kind of founder product first mentality towards the actual impact and the outcomes that are a result of this. Now, I'd like to just get into a bit of the how, actually. So we kind of covered the why, and maybe we can just explain how exactly, as deep kind of technically as you'd like to get, how exactly does the full proving of the Ethereum consensus work, just from a foundational understanding for our audience? And then I'd love to talk about some of the use cases that you're seeing with the partners that are enabling better applications, better ideas, et cetera, for them.
Sounds good. So, I mean, it's good to maybe first understand what a light client is. So I think, in a lot of ways, a light client is essentially what it is. It's light. It, instead of like looking at all of like consensus, it kind of samples, and based on a sampling, sort of gives a quasi guarantee of like trust. It has a lot of issues. For example, there is no economic security. So if there is collusion amongst the nodes that got sampled, there's no way to really slash them and whatnot. So there are a lot of like downsides to this. We have a blog post that we put out that has like this entire thing, mapped out in like a neat table. The only way to really build full consensus clients is to be able to like take all of Ethereum's consensus, the way Ethereum clients actually work, and verify that consensus, which means like looking a couple of blocks forward, or waiting a couple of blocks, making sure you collect all this information, create a gigantic proof of all of these signatures. And that's what it actually took us to build this client. It is extremely convoluted, requires deep understanding of how Ethereum works. Shout out to the team. It started as, in my opinion, a half joke on Slack, where we were like, oh, why don't we just prove all of consensus then? And it was more like a mock than anything else. And they're like, well, it's not impossible. Here's all the issues and so on. And people started working on it. I was happily kept out of the loop, because, to be honest, from my perspective, I would have said, oh yeah, that's probably not going to happen in time. There'll be too many bugs. You guys can't do it. Why don't we just focus on something else? But my team is confident enough to know that, like, if they bring me something that kind of sort of works, I will go, yeah, let's fucking go. And that's exactly what they did. And they came back and said, like, yo, we don't want to just call testnet main and beta. We want to launch this thing. And I was like, yeah, but who's going to do all that work? And like, oh yeah, we also have a proof of concept. It kind of works. We have like an audit to do and maybe like fix a few bugs, but we're pretty sure it works. Okay, then. And I was so surprised and happy that the team is empowered. That's really what I mean. I'm a CEO, so part of me is spending 15 minutes in 20 chunks, or sort of spending my day in 15-minute chunks doing like 200 things. The fact that I have an empowered team that knows how my brain works and goes like, yeah, if we get it to this point, she will approve, and it's an okay. Like, people are playing that game with me, and I know, and I love that they're doing this. That's really what brought about this full consensus plan. We're the first ones to do it. It's a completely open problem, which is why the Ethereum Foundation is so gung-ho about it, and shared their support on Twitter, which is why Stellar is so supportive. Everybody is so supportive because it's an open problem. Somebody else is doing it, a neutral party. They can all throw in their support, get this sort of like paved path available, and unlock things. In my opinion, this might actually be the way in which a lot of these ZK infrastructure pieces might get built out, where instead of one party saying like, oh, I'll just do it and you have to buy it from me and whatnot, these public goods might just be like a bunch of coalitions coming together and saying like, let's just fund it. It's cheaper if somebody else builds it. We'll just give it to them and become ZK-ified. And from that perspective, this is a very exciting future, in my opinion. If we always relied on one team and like one sort of person to do it, because of the nature of humans, we might say like, oh, how about I make myself the center of the universe and I'll create the standardized API and now everybody else has to play ball. We found a way around that organizationally as well. So again, talks to the maturity of the BD team, the way the tech team handled this problem and moved ahead. I really want to also at some point get the 2 or 3 engineers who are behind this in front of an audience. They're a little bit more on the shy side, but I'm going to maybe like sit with them and like get them to talk through all specific details. There are so many interesting things about how the ETH client works. Shout out to every single dev who's working on this stuff. Like, it is so complicated. These state machines have become wildly convoluted and have so much historical context. So yeah, shout out to everybody involved.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. That's awesome. Well, congrats. I mean, we're on the signal. We got to talk about who the signal is benefiting. Some of these partners that you said in this kind of positive sum ethos, at least the approach, technically, commercially, as well as just broadly in a collaborative fashion. You're bringing this technology to the market to help Ethereum, and I think that that is probably why a lot of us got into Ethereum in the first place, was that sort of thought process and energy per se. So let's talk about some of the partners. Some of them are coming on today. We've got Linea, Wormhole, EigenCloud, Nethermind. So maybe we can talk about a couple of those. What are some of the use cases that some of these teams or others are most excited about when it comes to this? I think perhaps the better question is, what does the signal unlock for these teams that are being a part of it? How does it advance their protocol and help them achieve their goals?
100%. So I think in a lot of ways, the use case that everyone understands is bridging, but the protocol that powers bridging and mostly a lot of other use cases is just message passing. What exactly is bridging? Bridging is basically saying like, oh, I have some asset here. Please trust that and give me some assets on the other place, right? And you're just trusting messages that go from one chain to another. This is a very, very powerful primitive that a lot of teams are trying to work on and have made improvements in their own way. To an extent, people had reached a sort of steady state on it and said, like, I don't think there's anything more to do here. Everything is too risky. And I don't know how we'll get the other team to agree and so on. This actually solves that problem. So if you are a company that has a lot of your business based on bridging or message passing or moving assets from one chain to another, or building DeFi projects or powering DeFi projects that are cross chains, a la Wormhole, like a lot of other projects that are similar to that, this solves a bunch of those issues. It makes it much, much cheaper, like going from like hundreds of thousands of dollars to like negligible amounts of money to like, get information from one chain to another. This is also useful for like teams like Eigen, who are trying to like restake and do all of these things. To take these restaking, you stake on say ETH, and now you can validate all of that on another chain. It's another interesting business model that like opens up for them as well. Interestingly, like if you want to move large amounts of money between chains, you want to like prove you have a lot of money on Stellar or something else or Solana, and you want to use that on Ethereum you found some other protocol that gives you a fantastic yield, it brings you that opportunity as well. So that is really the power that we're unlocking. The fact that you can just take information from one chain to another. Let's say you're a Rollup and you now have to pay a bunch of money for Oracle services and all of this. Maybe you just inherit all of it from Ethereum, free. You're done. So a cost of Rollup just went down. If you really believe in the Rollup centric universe, that's how it should be. If you should just be able to launch the Rollup, pay for whatever little infrastructure you need, not for any other information that is freely available on the L1. This solves that problem as well. Movement of data is how information is acquired. The power of information is translated into applications. Applications translate into revenue. Revenue translates into growth. It is a fantastic journey that we are on because of this. So yeah, so I'm really excited about like what happens when like information from all the chains are available to everyone freely. People are free to move around, to pick and choose the apps, irrespective of ecosystems. There is a, I think, overindulgence that we have in like alignment of like chains and whatnot. It's infrastructure. I'm not aligned to infrastructure. I'm aligned to my own needs, right? And this is a much more customer-centric view of the world that our technology sort of really like allows builders to access. So you don't need to be aligned to one chain and be like, oh, I guess if I just build for Ethereum L1, I'm done because that's like 70% of the revenue or whatever. Now you have access to everybody. People can move around. Maybe you want to do something on Solana. They have fantastic apps too, but all your assets are tied up in ETH. What do? Bridge or just do this? This is really going to unlock these use cases, increase the size of the pie. And that's really what I'm interested in seeing. As the size of the pie grows, everything becomes easier.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like if you could imagine that there has been figurative shackles on the technical side of different projects as a result of just the intricacies of really, I mean, if we're just talking about interrupt, connecting blockchains is hard. doing that safely and securely is difficult. Extrapolate that to across, different types of use cases, from applications to transfers to payments to interop, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you get to the point where there are these literal shackles, but if we're thinking about kind of like in this more information all the way to growth kind of story that you lay out, the signal kind of removes these shackles per se and brings a more unobstructed way to go from idea to revenue to growth, et cetera. You can think about it as like accelerating the on-chain economy broadly by, making things that have been previously difficult, easier and in a safer and secure manner, which I think is the most important part, because there's always trade-offs. But again, it does feel like with the acceleration of ZK, and I said this to Tom earlier, we're going to get another 100x in the next 12 to 18 months. And I think we're going to be able to evade that speed to security trade-off in interrupts, specifically in some capacity, at least, let alone the other spaces of the cryptoverse. So I'm excited. I'm stoked. And it seems like you are as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, if I wanted to change mindsets, I would say, like, we've had like a mindset of like limited availability. I want everybody to think about abundance, right?
Yeah.
One of the reasons why Web 2 is successful is like they just know they can just throw whatever at AWS or whatever, and it'll all work. I want people to like change their mindset to like a mindset of abundance. The last thing I'll say is like, I tweeted about this like a while back as well. Like I interviewed at Stripe like a few years ago to be a senior manager, and every interviewer told me the same thing. Our mission is to increase the GDP of the internet. Fantastic mission statement. Yeah. And that's something I want to like, something I reinforce with my team as well. Our job is to increase the GDP of Web3. The more that happens, the more, token go up, revenue comes in, like all of that. You want to increase the GDP, the gross domestic product of Web3, not get caught into like weird sort of like conversations which are subsumed into their own sort of like, oh, it's like a technology specific thing, or like it's a Solana versus ETH versus like whatever. Like none of that matters. And I actually saw Base's approach here as well, like my former employer, launching their super app. This is something that's actually been on their mind for a really long time. I'm really glad they're now in a position to do that. What they're trying to do is exactly the same thing: increase reach, increase the GDP of Web3, increase access. The signal is like very, very aligned with projects that are trying to do the right thing by the ecosystem. So are we. We see our fortunes linked to the growth of Web3. I don't think there is a world in which Boundless will succeed and Web3 fails, but rather when Web3 succeeds, Boundless will succeed. We want to align with the growth of the entire industry. That I think is the ultimate alignment.
Well said, Shiv. Last thing for you, real quick. What is the next couple weeks to months look like for Boundless? Busy time still. I know that you guys are on team no sleep, but a couple days of rest, and I know that you guys will be right back at it. What's coming up?
Yeah, I mean, it's the road to mainnet. We have it set out. There is a calendar of events. Follow us on socials because, like you said, there is no sleep. I'm really proud of the team for like holding the fort, but like we're going to keep at it for the next 5 to 6 weeks. It's going to get bonkers. Our ambitions might be too big for us, but like we're going to give it a fair shot anyway.
Beautiful. Shiv, thank you for joining. Thank you for bringing this product to market. You're welcome back anytime. It's the signal. It's the Rollup TV. Shiv, shout out to you, man. See you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty. All right, guys, we're going to go on a quick break. I need to fix something real quick, but bring it back. We have amazing guests left. We're going to bring the standby on, and we'll be right back up with you guys. That was awesome. Shiv's awesome. That guy's vision is just absolutely just cracked. I mean, one of the better founders in the space, comes from the Web 2 kind of background. So we're going to throw it on standby. I'll be back. Thank you. We're back. Up next, we got Sreeram, co-founder of formerly known EigenLayer, EigenCloud. We're going to be talking about verifiable apps. We're going to be talking what their collaboration is with the Risk0 team, with the Boundless team, and why the signal is important for what they are building. Sreeram is a mind of, I don't know how many, but a small fraction of the world, the way he thinks, the way he articulates ideas. So excited to have him on, talk about some of the recent happenings at EigenCloud and verifiable apps, as well as the importance and impact of the signal. A reminder, today is Boundless Mainnet Beta Celebration, the signal. We are excited to have the full consensus proofs to prove Ethereum finality, and we're going to figure out why Sreeram is excited. We're going to figure out what he's doing at EigenCloud, and we're going to bring him up here shortly. So, guys, thank you for being here on the Rollup TV today. The signal. That was a great segment with Shiv. I mean, the guy just gets it. Talk about a founder that has a lot of previous experience from a different industry, bringing that experience to our space, doing it for the better. And I think he's right with regards to the ability for our space to start to think more and more about doing things together in this, not necessarily in an altruistic fashion, but just in the fashion that we could build a lot of this open source tech together, utilize it together, help scale the ecosystem as a whole. So look, I think that's how he's thinking about it. I think that's how the Boundless team's thinking about it. I think that's how a lot of the Ethereum teams have been thinking about it, which may have gotten them into some trouble in the past. Kind of this, credible neutrality, let anybody build, don't try to make any money type of vibe. It's definitely the tides have turned a bit in the Ethereum space, which is fine. And probably for the better in terms of figuring out ways to bring value back to ETH, figuring out ways for L2s to, accrue value, creating supply sinks for ETH, the asset. But I think generally from a technologist perspective, from an open source perspective, what Shiv shared previously was the right way to think about it. So I know we got Sreeram in the back. We're going to get him up and live. We're going to have some fun. We're back up. We are live. I'm in Sweden. It's 8:30 p.m. I got some water. I had a Coke Zero. We got another hour or so left on the stream, maybe a little bit more. I think we got a special guest coming, confirmed at the end. Will be a bit of a different vibe from the signal, but we're going to finish the signal strong. We got 3 or 4 more guests coming up, so here we go. Let's get our guy up here, Sreeram, when he's ready. Friendly reminder, guys, the signal. We are celebrating Boundless's mainnet beta. We're celebrating full consensus proofs to prove Ethereum finality. I was with some of their team in New York a couple weeks, maybe at this point, a couple months ago. And man, we were talking about proving an entire base block and doing it very, very cheap. So proving a single base block is, there could be base doing 22 transactions a second. So, there's a certain amount of transactions per block that they can prove that. But if you can prove the entire Ethereum chain and then prove the entire consensus of every future block of Ethereum, what Shiv was saying is that there's so much historical data going back all the way to Genesis of Ethereum that the engineers were able to actually go back and create this entire proof that goes all the way back to Genesis to then be able to basically recursively prove that going forward. So that takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. All right, we got Sreeram in the back. We're going to talk about verifiability, and I'm looking forward to it. It's good to have him back on the show. Let's get him up here and welcome him on. Sreeram, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, how are you? Really excited to be here on the Rollup.
It's good to see you again, man. It was good to see you at Permissionless. Had a good chat about some of the work that you guys are doing in the AI and the verifiability space. Congrats on EigenCloud. Looks sweet.
Thank you.
And
thank you. Yeah, excited to talk about that and the other work that's going on in the space.
Yeah, man. So today's the signal. We're celebrating some of the work that Boundless is doing in ZK. We'll touch into that. But I'd like to get just a quick update as to some of the stuff that you are currently working on. That we were talking a bit about some of the kind of AI work at Permissionless and some of this verifiability. What's the latest in the EigenLayer ecosystem, in the EigenCloud ecosystem?
Yeah.
What are you mostly prioritizing?
Yeah, thanks, Andy. We did this recent, brand announcement of EigenCloud, and the idea is that it states our goal more clearly. The goal is to get cloud scale programmability. You should be able to write programs just like you write and deploy on existing cloud platforms with crypto grade verifiability, right? So you don't want to just send it to AWS. Then why are we here? We're here because we need verifiability. And so that was the kind of core driving principle that we've always been driving towards. But EigenLayer got bundled as a restaking platform, which it is. So we wanted to create this umbrella brand of EigenCloud. So if you think of EigenLayer is like an engine, and EigenDA is like these fast wheels. So you put all these things together and build a car, and that's EigenCloud. So it's kind of like this thing that brings everything together. So the idea is, if you're building an app and you're constrained by what you can write inside a smart contract, you can actually write only a portion of your application logic inside the smart contract, the portion that moves the tokens around. We call this the token logic, right? If it's a lending market, it's basically putting a token in escrow, liquidating tokens, all these kinds of things. That's the token logic. But the conditions, the application logic, can be written inside a general container, like a software package that you can deploy on the cloud. You can write it inside a container and deploy to EigenCloud, and it'll run and bring the results verifiably back to the chain that you're operating in. So that's the vision for EigenCloud. And so what that does is, now it makes any container running on any hardware device verifiable. And so now you can write programs that were simply not possible before. And the biggest example of a category of programs that's not possible to write on chain is AI. Right. So I want to write an augmented logic use AI to do various kinds of actions, do token trades, do decide when to liquidate, change my prices, all these things. I want to use complex AI logic, and I can't do it today. But with EigenCloud, you can actually do it. So that opens up a whole category of applications. So very excited about that.
Beautiful. When you guys are thinking about taking this, verifiable apps concept to kind of like consumer scale, one of the ideas that comes, or one of the products that comes to mind is 𝘞𝘂𝘓, that is using a opacity underneath, bringing a lot of these users' data using zk-TLS on chain, effectively without them knowing it. Is this the path that you see EigenCloud playing in the broader goal to bring a lot of new users on chain? Okay, so we have this verifiability stack. We can power these verifiable apps. Users can download them on the App Store, as an example. And little do they know, they're going to be interacting with the verifiability guarantees and greatness that EigenCloud would bring, and basically be onboarding these users in a more secure, safe environment compared to a centralized AWS server or some sort of other alternative. When you're thinking about bringing EigenCloud to mass consumer scale via these verifiable apps, this is one example, but how do you think more broadly about that kind of happening? 𝘞𝘂𝘓 is a great example, right?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So 𝘞𝘂𝘓 is doing these payday loans, right? So you work at Cheesecake Factory, and you want to you already spent 20 days working, so you're going to get paid for those 20 days, but it has not yet happened. And so you can actually prove that to a blockchain and say, hey, actually, I have done this. And therefore, when people are lending to you, they've minimized that credit risk. And so therefore, they're able to offer a very low APR for lending. So that's what 𝘞𝘂𝘓 does. But broadly, what is happening is verifiability is an antidote to counterparty risk, right? So when I'm lending to you, if I knew more about you, then I don't need to worry that you're going to take the loan and run away. So and the broader the category of verifiability that we can bring to crypto, the more applications get unlocked. So that's the broad thesis. But in terms of adoption, how we are thinking about it is, there is a inside out component to it. Inside out as in start inside crypto, take any existing crypto smart contract builder, and then tell them, hey, you can augment what you're doing with this EigenCloud. You can do way more, right? So it's make crypto more programmable. So that's one angle, and we will be leaning into that quite a bit, because anybody building a smart contract today should actually use and can express and go to market much faster by using something like EigenCloud. So that's number one. Then we look at what is the outside in use cases. What is being built on the cloud that suddenly when you have like unlocked verifiability becomes easier, cheaper, faster, better. And so we're going to go both these directions. But I think initially you will see definitely a little bit more of the inside out, because we already a known quantity inside crypto. I want to convince every crypto developer that actually, whether you're launching a meme coin platform or you're working with the biggest institutions, you can benefit from additional verifiability.
Beautiful. So one of the kind of core components, I think, of work that you guys have done with RiskZero is around working with them on some of the slashing conditions for EigenCloud. That is one key thing. But I'd like to kind of understand from your perspective in this broad lens of the signal today, right? So it's a bit of a celebration of achieving full consensus proofs to prove Ethereum finality using ZK proofs. I'm curious why this is a big deal to you, or what makes you excited about this from a builder's perspective, from EigenCloud's perspective, and how would this impact what you guys are building at EigenCloud, whether it's on the DA side, on the app side, on the verifiability side? How are you thinking about that?
Yeah, so let me start with the problem statement of what Signal actually solved. So if you look at Ethereum, Ethereum has 1 million plus notional validators. So you are getting 1 million plus signatures, to certify a block's finality. This is just a lot, right? And all of them are aggregated and put on Ethereum in the beacon chain. And so if I have to verify that a block is finalized, I have to verify all these 1 million signatures every block. So this is, and what RiskZero has done with Boundless and this particular implementation of Signal is to actually enable that using a ZK proof. I don't have to now verify 1 million signatures. I verify one proof. And then because it's bundled through the ZK proof, I've actually indirectly verified, and I'm assured that these 1 million people have signed off on this block. So this is, to explain how deep and fundamental this problem is. Ethereum already kind of like anticipated this problem. And what they did is they said, oh, we'll just sample a random 256 or 512 member committee called the Sync committee and let them sign off on blocks. But, you have 1 million validators because you need that much amount of security. And then by just like sampling 250 or 500 nodes is not that powerful.
Yeah.
So this was kind of like unsettling to all of us, especially people like me who think about economic security. And because, it's 500 nodes with 32 ETH each. How much is that economic security? As opposed to 1 million nodes putting up 32 ETH. So it's just like orders of magnitude off. And so where is this needed? This is needed in bridging as the most important aspect. So I want to verify Ethereum state on Solana, on Monad or whatever other L1s. I'm transporting the state there. And when I'm transporting the state, that blockchain's smart contract has to verify that Ethereum has run correctly. These million validators have signed off correctly. So imagine running inside another like Monad or Solana a check that 1 million validators have signed off for every block. This is impossible. So what Signal and RiskZero does is to remove that as a constraint, because now you can just like verify one ZK proof inside an EVM contract or inside Solana, and then you're done. This is a really amazing kind of like technological unlock. What it does for us at EigenLayer is, for example, as we talked about EigenCloud, what we say is build powerful apps on any chain, not just on Ethereum and L2s, but on any chain, right? Because I want to run some complex token logic on Monad, but I want to offload the kind of like a co-processor computation to EigenCloud. But EigenCloud still like built on EigenLayer, it's living on Ethereum. So you have to transport like the actions happening on Ethereum to another chain. And so to do it safely, you need something like the Signal, which unlocks a lot of possibilities for us. Super excited about it. So in general, I think that's the big unlock is whenever you want to transport information happening on Ethereum to other chains, this is going to let you do it faster, cheaper, easier, more secure. And secure being a very important word because at the end, EigenLayer, EigenCloud is a security platform. And if we said, oh, we are now dependent on like a 3-node bridge to secure something which has like $20 billion of security, you would wonder, why do you have $20 billion of security? Why not just have those 3 nodes sign off on everything? But by removing that trust friction, now you're actually getting a ZK proof that everything happened correctly.
Yep.
So actually having that $20 billion of security matters.
Yeah. Sreeram, you bring up a point that I can't help but try to give you a good 2 minutes to push back on. So clearly you saw the clip from Hasib at Permissionless talking about economic security being a meme. You were pushing back hard on that. You gave out 6 really good points, and I just want to get like that kind of that discourse has continued with regards to just kind of like different ways of orienting around staking designs, and actually is quite relevant to what you're saying with regards to kind of like, okay, you have this 1 million notional size validator set or node set. You know, what's the point of just kind of sampling like 1/1000th of that? It kind of takes away from the entire purpose of having all these distributed sets of validators. So in a 60-second to 2-minute answer, why is economic security not a meme, and why do you feel so strongly about this?
Yeah, I think there is economic security a meme at an L1 level? There is one kind of a question, and that was what I had posted about. Yeah. But irrespective of that, economic security is absolutely not a meme at like a co-processor level, and it's specifically in the way that we've built it. So let me explain that. So I want to run a container, and I want this to be secured by, let's say, $100 million. Why? Because I'm going to take an action worth $100 million. Now, if I tell you not just that, if this was run incorrectly, I'm going to slash these guys. I tell the application that if this container was run incorrectly, I'm going to slash the guy and take that 100 million and distribute it to your app users. So now it's actually a much simpler concept to understand. It's insured computation. You're doing a computation with an insurance that the computation is done correctly. Is insured computation useful? It's absolutely useful, right? Because I'm asking somebody else to do a task for me. If they mess up, I take their money and make my own customers whole. It's a very simple concept to understand. So I think I want to just start from there. Whether for an L1, you understand why economic security is a meme or not a meme, insured computation using EigenCloud is absolutely not a meme, because you can actually understand what it is very easily.
Yeah.
So that's something that I just want to lay out. But going deeper down the stack, actually, the way economic security is used today is just slashing and burning the funds, which makes it look like a meme, because I just got burnt. It did nothing to me if I'm the harmed party. But what I was suggesting in that thread is some of our work called Stake Sure, which basically, even at an L1 level, what you could do is to offer this kind of an insurance, where if you're a transactor on an L1, you can hold insurance against the staked funds, so that if somebody gets slashed, you get whole. So if you're Coinbase and you're relying on Ethereum L1 to settle hundreds of millions, maybe billions of dollars of transaction every day, you might want to hold an insurance against the Ethereum stake. And you want to say, if you're BlackRock and you're holding tens of billions of dollars, hopefully, of Ethereum ETFs, now you might want an insurance against Ethereum going wrong. So these are places where, obviously, as we see this TradFi influx into crypto, this whole YOLO security model is going to be questioned, and people want rigid, correct security model. In fact, I think the reason that I'm very annoyed with removal of economic security is what remains. What is the way in which your blockchain is secured? Is secured by random internet anons running your nodes. And what is this security thesis that we are going to be able to go and sell a BlackRock to say, hey, don't use your 10-node network, use our 10-node internet anon network, Like, what is this? So anyway, that's what makes me very annoyed.
Sreeram, I'd love to get you on a some sort of like panel or debate or something with somebody who will challenge you. It'd be a really fun
I would love that
conversation. I got to let you go today, but thank you for joining the Signal. I appreciate your time and keep up the great work. Have a great rest of your day, man.
Thank you so much, Andy. Thanks to the Rollup. Congrats to our friends at Boundless for bringing Signal to market and enabling more builders in Ethereum and crypto to take advantage of this.
Yes, sir. Cheers, man. See you soon. Bye. I love that guy. What a great guy. Just full of ideas. And just, yeah, we got to get a economic security debate going. That would be a lot of laughs. So, all right, guys, we are jumping up next into our guy Robinson. If you have watched the Rollup TV before, you've seen Robinson on. Guy's been cooking with the institution, so got a lot of updates to come. He'll be happy to hear that the Rollup is going much deeper into the institutional realm. It's probably why I'm wearing a collared shirt today. We're gonna polish Rob up, and we've been posting RWA XYZ stats. We're gonna get that audience one day at a time. Let's get him up here. Let's get Robinson up here on the Signal. We're live from Sweden. Great vibes. Robinson, what's up, man? How are you?
What's up? What's up? Love the collar. I'm feeling self-conscious. I should be wearing one.
I mean, every time I see you, you're in slacks, a tucked-in shirt, and a belt, buddy. So you're a changed man.
Fair. Today's an in-the-office grind day, so a little less stressed up.
Well, congrats on that scope announcement. I saw that photo that you posted with the head of digital assets there, or head of, kind of that kind of arm, and it looked very candid. Yeah. It looked like you were in there just, shilling God's word for all of us to onboard more and more people.
Yeah, thanks, man. That was I mean, these things take a bit of time, as I mentioned, and this one we're really excited about. I think I'm particularly excited about private credit, and that's one of the bigger, I guess, holdings that Hamilton Lane, or the bigger products that they focus on. But it's been a pleasure working with that team. They're very excited about crypto. Victor, is a very passionate, I would say, person when it comes to democratizing finance. So just a good person to kind of have in our corner in terms of the crypto industry as a whole.
And so they're excited about bringing their private credit markets on chain and tokenizing them for access for folks who want to basically KYC and participate in that, or kind of what's the
exactly. I mean, I don't know today what they're like, if you go through the typical broker to try and buy private credit with Hamilton Lane, what the exact threshold is. Typically you'll see anywhere from minimum of 100K. Sometimes you see minimums to 500K just to participate in that asset class. I think today you can purchase a scope investment for as little as 10. So there's still a little bit of it may even be less now, depending, but there's still a little bit of a hurdle, still a little bit of a barrier to entry. But if we think about how far we've come down from, let's say, 100 or even 500K, that's a significant improvement on this idea of democratizing finance. So I know they're really excited about it. Of course we are, but I think it's a good step in the right direction.
Good. Well, I had Michael Sonnenschein of Securitize on Tuesday, I think, and he gave me a school of thought that was a bifurcated school of thought with regards to one of the situations that's happening in tokenization today. I'm curious to get your take on it. He basically laid out that there's two kind of ways that tokenization is happening right now, and I'm sure you're familiar. It's effectively some form of wrapped assets on chain, more or less. Let's call it that for summarization purposes, and then effectively native assets on chain being tokenized. And he talked about Securitize's big push into kind of wanting to try to stay clear, if you will, of these wrapped assets and try their best to focus on bringing true native kind of non-custodial assets and tokenizing them and doing it all within the crypto ethos. Now, I've probably butchered the exact ways that it's happening, but he kind of explained that there's two ways, and that he was almost weary and cautious of this wrapped kind of way. You guys are obviously working closely with Securitize. Maybe you could just illuminate quickly as to more exactly what's happening there, and kind of if you agree if that's the stance that you guys with Wormhole are taking as well, or if it's different.
No, absolutely. I think that we recycle a lot of the same problems in crypto, but apply them to maybe like different categories, different asset classes, right? So I think maybe I don't want to speak exactly for Michael, but I think some of the things he's talking about, it is number one, like having the assets on chain, having like a almost one-to-one reserve. So maybe the same mental model as you would with the stable coin. The assets are on chain, it's native, right? You could see the contracts that they're in, and then you have an asset that you can maybe mint against that can be used in DeFi versus maybe some sort of off-chain vehicle. This asset represents ownership in said off-chain vehicle, and there may be like when you think about the unwinding of that, there could be issues, and then you also think about all of the different versions that could be created based on this off-chain vehicle. So like mental model here is, I think someone tweeted about this. You have A Tesla, B Tesla, C Tesla, D Tesla. And so when you think about these on-chain stocks proliferating, how do you build deep liquidity? Which one do you choose? Which one wins? So you almost have like the repeat of kind of the
Of like
stable
bridge
coin.
tokens, like
Yes, and the bridge
yeah.
tokens, exactly. So I think the push here is like let's kind of learn from stable coins, from bridge tokens, what the best practices are, and make sure we're just not yeeting into on-chain stocks, getting excited, and doing it in a more like systemically healthy way. And so I generally agree. I do think that there will be wrappers of sorts. Like even today, Securitize wraps their native they have on the liquidities on chain, wraps it to be used in DeFi. But that's more so to put it into like an ERC20 compatible version that can be used in like Morpho or some other money markets. But I do think it's something to pay attention to. And I do think it's something that we should make sure the people that are talking about this are kind of educated on.
Mm, And one other thing on the RWA's front, and I appreciate that, and I think private credit could be an answer here is, I think a lot of us were perhaps like a lot of the crypto natives thought that the RWA space was a bit slow. It was just T-bills, 5%, great. It's obviously evolved way more since then. Very, very exciting. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of us are talking about the treasury companies and how SBET is up 300% and not so much the tokenization, but it's still very interesting what's happening. I'm curious, is there an overlooked area of this sector right now? Like, is there something that you're starting to see interest peak up? Not T-bills, not tokenized, real estate per se, but like maybe it's private credit, maybe it's tokenized equities, maybe it's on-chain IPOs. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there something that you're starting to kind of get a sliver of that interest or that kind of buzz wasn't there 3-6 months ago?
Well, I will say to the one point you made, the digital asset treasury, they're even getting an acronym now, the DATs, like the SBETs, et cetera. I do think that space is really interesting.
Okay.
What typically happens is you'll see some larger, like the SBETs and some of these other ones go, and then other people want to do that as well, right? Because you want buy side for whatever the token is, and so like this is obviously opening you up to a lot of different to investors. And so I think you'll see a lot of lagging like DATs come online soon. So I think it's like an interesting narrative. It seems a little bit hacky, but at the same time, it's definitely something to keep an eye out for. Look, I don't want to be boring, but I think sometimes being consistent and sometimes the boring stuff is what ultimately works. I'm going to go ahead and still say private credit, but also these RWAs being used in DeFi is what I'm interested in. So why private credit? I've talked a little bit about it. It's an asset that's yields like right now. Apollo's ACRED gives you 9%. Of course, there's things like you have quarterly redemptions, and there's like it's not as liquid. But that's how most of these assets work, kind of in the quote unquote real world. But I do think it's just the general concept of giving more people access to an asset that they haven't been able to have is fantastic, and a lot of the reason like some of us got into this space. Secondly, though, is watching these assets being used in DeFi. So I actually, not to plug a post I made on Twitter, but I did an end-to-end like tracking of what it looks like today to go through this. And I'm just going to call out a few protocols that I think are doing really well and kind of on the cutting edge here. Morpho, talk with the team there. They're really focused on RWAs. What does it look like to have faster liquidations? What does it look like to offer private credit money markets? Like these assets are really good collateral. So like being able to draw out stable coins and use in DeFi, I think we'll see more. Obviously, Athena, I'll call them out with their USTB, some acronym like that where it's BIDL backed. Drift also with ACRED. So I'm keeping a close eye on seeing how these RWAs are being used, where they're being used in different ways. And so that's something to get excited about and keep an eye out for, that I don't think a lot of people would talk about RWAs in DeFi. There is the percentage of people who actually use it is less than 1% of the people who talk about it. So I'm really, really trying to watch and keep track of what's happening there.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Well, with all of this focus, I would assume, and I mean, frankly, I know that these people use Wormhole because they value the security that you guys place as a priority for transferring these assets and bringing these different products multi-chain. Today's the signal we are celebrating. Boundless is kind of bringing to market of these full consensus proofs to prove Ethereum finality. Robinson, what impact does this have on Wormhole? What makes you excited about this? How does this help your interop solution, or just broadly, how does this improve interop at large?
Absolutely. So maybe I have a tendency to be too long-winded, as you know, Andy. So I'll try and like quickly go through this history. So we've actually been tracking the space, I would say, like the broader ZK space, very closely for the past 2 years. We have ZK cryptographers on the Wormhole team. So like we know the space well. We've been tracking it, and actually at the beginning, our thought process was, we've actually thought that, and maybe I'll take even a further step back. We've always known, or one of the core, I guess, the core things when it comes to interoperability is being able to verify anything between chains, right? For us, right? So we want to make sure that we can share the state in a very trustless, decentralized way. What you can do on top of that, once you're able to do that kind of core primitive, is build things like asset transfers, is build things like oracles cross-chain, all this different stuff. But you need a way to share state at the bottom. We've always known that like ZK is kind of the end game there. So much so that we started investing in it, right? We started to build our own ETHLC. We started to work with the Aptos team. We started to work with other ones. We actually like half acquired a couple ZK teams. We work closely with Lurk, Zpoken. And so we made a ton of investment there. And I think that was the right decision. I think what we've seen, kind of how the market played out, is that there's going to be teams entirely specializing on this. And so we then kind of made the decision, if I'm being kind of completely transparent, maybe a year ago, to say, you know what, we know we are going to be users and consumers of ZK proofs, but maybe it's not best for us to be the ones actually building out all these light clients. Maybe there's an opportunity to work together. And so how the space kind of played out is that, roll-ups, of course, are kind of like one of the biggest ingesters of let's say like a ZKP or something, but so is interop, right? Like we're demand for these proofs. Every asset transfer, and we do anywhere from 30 to 120 million every 24 hours in value, and that's a lot of transactions, involves some sort of proof, right? And so what we kind of made the decision a year ago, back to what I was saying, is like, do we want to build this ourselves or partner with someone that's doing it really well and build the entire stack around that? And so that's kind of why we're here today, is saying the Guardian network is an incredibly strong verification mechanism. It's why, to your point, Andy, like BlackRock, why Apollo, why some of these institutions are choosing us, because they're like, this is a really, really good way to share state and verify state cross-chain. The next iteration of that, though, is instead of trusting humans, you're more or less trusting math. And so we're really excited, obviously, to be part of this. We will be kind of like users or a customer for these ZKPs within the Wormhole network, and they'll be used to verify state for something as simple as an asset transfer. So that's how, kind of like a little bit of our history, and when it comes to ZK in particular, and like why we're here today.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that the way that I've thought about ZK for so long is that, especially with interop, is you've got this kind of safety and speed trade-off always. And, with any sort of proof aggregation, that we could evade that per se at some point, right? It's been quite expensive and slow still. I think we probably, I've been saying today, we probably still need another 100x. But at the pace that it's going, it's maybe 12, 18 months away. And I think like intents have been a really great way to like have, cross-chain asset transfers for like DeFi users in a completely different way, but in a similar idea of like, okay, this is the speed that we're used to. Now, if we can, rather than having to rely on third parties, if we can just rely on code for this, then that's, that, as you call it, that's the end game.
Yeah, and if you think about the business we're in, we're called an interoperability protocol, of course, but one of our core business is just asset flows between chains, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about how we need to be competitive there, to your point, Andy, like speed and cost is everything. And so I remember 2 years ago when we were thinking about ZK and trying to like map out how long things were going to take, we made a deliberate choice to say we're going to still continue to invest heavily into the Guardian network, or the verification method we have today, which is the Guardian network. And we're realistic about, like, I'll call it the commercialization of ZK, right? Like when we're going to get to the point where we have the speed needed to stay competitive with our core business. And why is speed needed? Obviously, users demand it, but more importantly, aggregators are becoming, you know, a kind of like, they're becoming very important, right? Like a Li-Fi or a Squid or all this stuff is aggregating all of this kind of like these highways of asset transfers into the wallets. We do have a lot of direct integrations. We have direct integrations with Phantom, Backpack, you know, MetaMask, etc. But like there's also the aggregators play a large role in demand gen for Wormhole, or any Wormhole asset transfer. So if we have a latency that go like if we can't serve a user in under 12 seconds, we're not going to get serviced, right? So like there is this interesting trade-off where we want to adopt the most trustless tech, but we can't do it at the expense of our business. And so we've always been kind of watching closely when we're going to get to that point and just making sure we're ready. At least our tech is composable enough to say, this is a high value transfer. So maybe we want to use some sort of ZKP and the speed doesn't matter. Or this is a, you know, this is a, you know, an intent transfer needs to be fast as it can be, 2-3 seconds. You know, maybe we use the Guardian network because it can be that fast. So that's kind of how we're thinking about things. You know, we're ready to dive in, but we're cautiously optimistic on like it needs to be able to serve our core business.
Yeah. Robinson, one last question for you around kind of how you're thinking about the strategic vision here. You're already obviously so close to asset issuers in their product lines as they have. You named a couple, and you're obviously already, you know, this completely interoperability behemoth. Like, is there a world where Wormhole ends up being an asset issuer itself? Like, you're almost already one, but like, isn't that like the logical next step of like building these relationships, owning all these different interop venues, having all that volume? Don't you just kind of logically think to then go and be an asset issuer of your own?
You can't give away our company direction secrets. No, I'm kidding. No, look, I've actually explained this. I'm like, we'll give kind of some context. Just, I try to like do a lot of mental models if possible, or just try to relate to certain things. But you're exactly right. Like in some ways, bridges, even historically, even like the kind of bridge owned liquidity fragmented model, were asset issuers back then, right? Like for a good example is WBTC is native on Solana, but we are the Wormhole issued WBTC is by far the most liquid. I think there's $360 million worth of WBTC in the lock-in mint bridge, right? And so like that is technically an issued asset. And so especially as we get more into NTT and we have some of these RWAs adopt them, we have some big stable coins coming, etc. Like being able to, you kind of have these systems today where you issue on one chain. It's pretty cool if you could just say, I can issue securely natively across 5 out the box, right? And so, you know, your hunch is good on the direction.
Yeah, and then you can own the yield too and take fees and stuff like that.
Exactly. Into the whole revenue
and then
meta.
You can pay the revenue meta.
It's a delicate balance too, right? Like, you know, we do work closely with asset issuers.
Yes,
you know, at what point are we kind of like competing with our customer? So these are all things we have to keep in mind, but definitely kind of at the core of it and looking to get more involved.
Robinson, thanks for joining the Signal. Stoked to see you guys collaborate with Boundless, work on improving the product for your consumers, whether they're end users, institutions, KYC, non-KYC. They've got $1 million, 10 million, or $1. You're there to support them, and I'm excited for the future. And I'm going to be thinking more and more about this asset issuer interoperability thing because it is literally one and the same. But thanks, man.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Andy. Thanks for having me. See ya.
Cheers, man. See ya. Alrighty, guys. Up next, we have our guy Declan from Linea. I always love chatting with Robinson, though. It's guy's got his head in the right place with regards to the institutions, with regards to bringing more people into the space and really like going where they are. I think they've also recently moved to New York, so they're working harder than my digital nomad self could do I did 3 months in New York, but now we're live from Sweden. It's the signal. We're having a good time. We're going to jump in next to Declan and Linea. Last I saw Declan, I think we were at a Polygon event, and I was telling him to scram. So that should be pretty funny to hear about. It's 9 p.m. in Sweden. We're live. It's the Rollup TV. It's the signal. We're having a damn good day. We got a ton of people on the show today. We're crushing 7,000 viewers. Welcome into the Rollup. If it's your first time, smash that like button. Follow the Rollup. Welcome to the signal. Market's pumping. Bitcoin 119. ETH's ripping. Coinbase ripping. Everything looks good. We got our boy Declan coming up here next. Looking forward to having him. Yeah, like I said, last I saw Declan, I was giving him a mouthful for being at a Polygon event. So we'll see how he responds to that. Let's get him up here. Let's get Declan on. It's good to have him in. We are live from Sweden. It's the signal. We're celebrating Boundless mainnet beta, ZKing everything. Declan wants to make every Rollup a ZK Rollup. I think he's going to do it. What's going on, man?
What's going on? Yeah, good to see you. How's it going?
Yeah, man. It's Scandinavian summer over here. It's 9 p.m. and it's light as day. How are you?
Yeah, doing good. Nice summer here in London as well. So you still got the sun out. Long days.
Yeah, man. Somehow you guys are getting the Joe Lubin consensus SBET hype right now, like just absolutely on a freaking roller coaster ride, brother.
Oh, I haven't noticed that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Your Twitter account engagement has just gone boom.
Yeah, it's been crazy. I think everyone's really excited. SBET, Sharplink, biggest holder of ETH now.
Yeah, man.
So that's super exciting, and obviously great for Ethereum as well. And I'm a big Ethereum fan, a big Ethereum maxi. So yeah, very happy,
man.
Happy house.
So all right, tell us the story here. You get a call from Joe. He's like, man, I'm starting SBET. We're gonna buy $1 billion of Ethereum. We're gonna own more than the foundation. Are you in? Like what happened? How did this what was your first understanding of this? If you don't mind sharing, what's the story? And what is your relationship like with Joe?
Yeah, so I mean the story started pretty recently actually. We obviously saw what Michael Saylor did with MicroStrategy, right? That's a very famous story now with Bitcoin, and kind of drove a lot of the sort of bull market for Bitcoin. And obviously ETH being a more productive asset than Bitcoin just made obvious sense that Ethereum and ETH is clearly the next Bitcoin and BTC. And I think sort of like who better than Joe Lubin, the co-founder of Ethereum, to be the one behind that like driving force, So the play was pretty obvious. I think it all comes down to execution. It's obviously just getting started. And Sharplink is its own sort of company, so I can't say too much. But yeah, really exciting. I think now the biggest holder of ETH, and I think also what's amazing is they're actually buying ETH from other entities as well. You saw the Ethereum Foundation sold some ETH to Sharplink, so now we have these like diamond hands of ETH in the space, just kind of continuing to accumulate and put that ETH to use as well. That's the key difference. Is Bitcoin's a non-productive asset, whereas ETH is a productive asset. So really excited where that's going. My relationship with Joe is really good. We talk all the time, every day. He's there in my Slack DMs being like, hey, Declan, I've got this great idea. We should do it. Sometimes I'm like, Joe,
buy more ETH.
Buy more ETH.
Yeah,
I've got no money left, Joe. I'm all bought in. No, so he's obviously very involved with Linea and what we're doing there. This is part of consensus. So he's been instrumental since the very beginning. And I think, he really is, he sort of bleeds Ethereum in my eyes. Like he really is a true visionary, thinking 5-10 years ahead. Sometimes he'll say something to me and I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense. And then, a few months later, I'm like, wow, you're like totally right. So yeah, big fan of Joe.
Good, man. Good. Yeah, man. I mean, today I saw Wintermute put out a post saying that their OTC market is out of ETH. Somehow they still have some fart coin to sell. That's what I heard in the D10 trenches, but apparently they're out of ETH. So that's got to be good for us. So let's talk Linea. You guys have been teasing Linea token. The community is going crazy about it. I think they were pretty angry for a while. Now they're happy again. Now they're angry. Then they're happy. Are you guys going to do anything different compared to other L2 tokens? You've seen L2 tokens over the last 18 months get smashed. They were in a different era, a different time period. They weren't able to do different things. Are you guys following the same path as the rest of the L2s? Talk to us about the token. How are you thinking about it? and what's the latest there?
Yeah. So I guess one of the benefits about being one of the last to kind of TG out of the big L2s is like you get to see what everyone has done and kind of learn those lessons, right? And obviously the space moves so fast, we can kind of see, you know, what might actually mean to be a really good Ethereum L2. And again, like we've always been since day dot completely Ethereum aligned in our approach. We really do believe that Ethereum should be the global sort of layer of trust, and ETH is the most important digital asset. And so even when we built Linea, it was always about like how can we help achieve that mission. So when it comes to the Linea token, which obviously we've spoken about, you know, for a while now, and it's maybe taken longer to TGE than some might have liked. But yes, the Linea TGE will be very different from all other TGEs, and the token itself will be very different. And so I don't want to sort of reveal too much, but you know, obviously we come from a very unique position, being part of consensus, having this sort of connection to the L1. I will say that, you know, many of the L2s, they don't, what I would say, accrue value to the L1, right? They aren't actually ETH first and foremost. And what I will say is that Linea will absolutely be ETH first and foremost. Linea is going to be the L2 that Ethereum deserves, scaling Ethereum without compromise. And from the tokenomics to the economics to the way the governance is positioned, everything is going to be, you know, really, really different to what we've seen before with any other L2. And I think also with this new wave of, you know, institutions and institutional capital, obviously 𝘱𝑒𝑡, but like there's way more, all of Wall Street is coming on chain and it wants to come on Ethereum. It wants to come into the L2. Linea is going to be the gateway for Ethereum for these institutions. And so making the tokenomics and the economics sort of, you know, attractive to those types of institutions and capital is like a key part of our design.
Yeah. So I got to put it on you. How does one make a token, a chain, a very, very beneficial to Ethereum economically, but also sustain their own? Aren't those two things kind of butting heads, and that's been a lot of the crux of the problem?
Well, I think the way to think about it is like, what's wrong with the other L2s or like other L2 tokenomics? Okay, so like firstly, you can think, you know, a lot of L2s have come from like VC funded startups, right? You know, they get a bunch of capital, raise a lot of capital. And, you know, when they actually have to launch a token, they might have like a huge, you know, allocation for VCs and for the team, right? And that just creates systemic down pressure, right? You now have like on average 50% of the token is just designed to basically, you know, be exit liquidity. So like that is a fundamental issue with most L2 tokens because of the way they're constructed as businesses, right? They look like corporations of CEOs. Right. They don't look like open protocols. So that's one problem. And then the other problem is that, you know, since especially like 4844, like all of the values started going to these sequences, these L2 sequences, right? Extracting it from ETH holders and stakers. And we saw that with the change in the sort of supply of Ethereum. It went from, you know, being deflationary to just flipped back to inflationary. I think it's already now over the supply since the merge. So again, that was a huge issue as well. So I think if you look at those two problems and think, how can I solve that? That's what we focused on, and that's what we're going to deliver soon when we announce more details about the token.
Give us some alpha. All right, cool, man. What are you most focused on right now outside of the token side? Ecosystem, apps. What are the good apps? What are the cool teams? What is the ecosystem that you're proud? Like, what are the ecosystem projects that you're, you know, that are getting a lot of traction? Shout them out for us.
Yeah. So we had a big announcement yesterday. So there's going to be a new decentralized exchange launching on Linea that we've been working on closely with Consensus and obviously Linea. So it will be like a third-party protocol, but we'll be supporting it very closely. So definitely keep an eye on that. That's going to be sort of the liquidity hub for Consensus, right? The main place that Wall Street and everyone comes to trade on Ethereum. Again, Linea is the gateway for Ethereum, and it's great for trading and payments. So it's all going to be based around this decentralized exchange. We've also onboarded a lot of the blue chips now. So again, like you need to have that core influx of like the 𝘰𝘭𝘆s of the world, and we're definitely doing a lot of that too. I think sort of things I'm excited about that are kind of coming is equities. So again, like we're really appealing to institutions. Tokenized equities are a big thing. There's lots of different solutions and trying to do it in a way that's still compliant. We're still like a US-based, you know, company, and we want to like work closely with regulators. And so doing tokenized equities on chain, that's all coming very soon and coming to Linea. Maybe even you get to trade, you know, 𝘱𝑒𝑡 on Linea very soon. Maybe even goes into some perps and you can, you know, degen trade some 𝘱𝑒𝑡. So these kind of things are definitely areas we're focusing on the ecosystem side. I'd say like on the, you know, and also like we're still in our sort of DNA, like a technology team. Like we definitely are doing a lot more on the ecosystem side, but we took this bet 6 years ago to build the zk-VM. I mean, I'm sure you remember Andy in like 2023 or whatever, there was like, the first zk-VM. Well, now there's none. It's just us. We're the only one left, the last one standing. And I think that was like a very good bet, a difficult one, right?
Yeah.
You have to play the long game, and that's not always what people want to do in the space, but we played the long game. We're seeing that now where like there's lots of RISC-V zk-VMs, obviously RISC-0 being one, and they're really great and they provide that sort of general flexibility. But what we've done is say, right, we're going to do one thing really, really well, right? So we just proved the EVM. That's all we cared about. Is anything we do. Everything else, like, not in our interest. We just want to be the best at proving EVM. And it also gives a very different, like, piece of diversity to the ecosystem, because we have all these other provers, but Linea is like completely different. Like the tool chain is completely different. And so that's great because as an L2, because we're completely EVM, we're going to be able to be enshrined into the L1. You have this thing called a native rollup, which I know you're aware of. And like Linea is the only one that can be a native rollup today because it's fully EVM equivalent. And then the other cool thing is, because we're obviously focused on proving the EVM, we're now seeing that we're able to prove the L1 as well. So actually there's a path where, there's a path where you can use it on L2 and L1. To be honest, the future, I don't even see the difference. So it's kind of like becoming an old term, but yeah, you'll be able to sort of generate a proof, and then obviously a tester will be able to verify ZK proof on the L1 from a Linea stack. And we're actually working on an EIP right now with the 𝘂𝘬 team, where you can optionally, a part of the L1 consensus, attest to a block using a zero knowledge proof from the Linea zk-VM. So the technology stuff's really interesting, but obviously Linea mainnet is kind of the focus on the ecosystem. What I will say, as some alpha on the ecosystem side, Linea will be the best chain for your ETH. Right, that's there's a lot of L2.
This is a shill fest.
What's the specialization?
This is a fucking
Linea's going to do
shill
one
fest.
thing really well. It's going to be the best chain for your ETH. We've got some really exciting announcements coming out soon on how that's going to work, and it's going to be something that is going to take a lot of people by surprise. So if you know anyone with a lot of ETH and they want to put it somewhere, then Linea is going to be the best chain for you.
Yeah, I'll call up Justin and Joe. We'll see what they got to say about this shill fest here today. Native rollup guys, zk-VM. I'm glad you guys stuck through that one. I'll tell you, that was a hot topic and no longer is. We're on the signal. We have Boundless today coming out announcing that they are able to have consensus proof to prove the entirety of Ethereum finality using ZK proofs. What does this mean for Linea? What does this mean for Declan? Why is it exciting? For interoperability, for scaling Ethereum, what does this bring to your life? How does this make your life better, Declan?
Yeah. So it's funny. I was chatting with Jacob from the RISC-0 team, and this is back in Berlin, and he told me about the plans for Signal, and I was like, this is amazing. Because my team has been spending a lot of time, probably the last 6, maybe even longer months, on interoperability. Right? There was so many different. Obviously interoperability is something we need to solve as an ecosystem. We were involved in lots of working groups and ideas on how to do this. There was many different approaches, some of which wanted to change the EVM. And I'm as I said, I'm a stickler for the EVM, right? If you
we know
you're not gonna get that past me. So we really didn't want to go down that path. But I had been in all those working groups. There was new solutions. None of them really was that compelling. And I was like, well, we'll just park that problem for a while. And then RISC-0 came along, and Jacob was like, okay, we're doing a Signal thing. We're gonna have a ZK proof, for the consensus layer. I was like, fantastic. And it's fantastic because that finally allows us to anchor the L1 state into L2. And this is just gonna unlock loads of great interoperability use cases like cross-chain. For example, you can also have key store accounts. So I don't know if you remember the idea of a key store account where you can actually, in the multi-chain future, and obviously this is when I'm talking to my, friends at MetaMask who are virtually next door. It's you can have one account on the L1 which controls your private keys, your smart wallets across all the other sort of L2s and L3s that live on Ethereum. And so this also starts to enable these kind of use cases. And I think to have it as then my question was okay, is this going to be some sort of product that you sell? Is it going to be all this kind of stuff? But no, it's a public good. Yeah. And I was like, that's just super amazing. I think what they've done is great, and I'm really kind of excited and happy to kind of support the Signal and see this actually be used on Linea and other Linea stack L2s.
Yeah, I mean, I think that public good part is particularly interesting. It feels like a return to the original Ethereum ethos. I mean, I don't know about you, but I would assume so. When you got into Ethereum, it really had this optimistic feel to it, this culture of building open source technology for everybody, and just stacking those on top of each other and just building. What's kind of funny now is like a lot of the TradFi people are kind of coming in and just they're gonna reap the value of a lot of the stuff that has been built. And I think Ethereum, the community itself, has also flipped the switch a bit in terms of like, okay, we got to bring value to ETH. Maybe there's ways that we need to kind of like restructure our thinking around necessarily this kind of super credibly neutral, open for all, you know, free for everything, open source, everything. You know, that remains, but it seems like there's been a bit more of a capitalistic turn with the restructuring with the foundation, et cetera. But I think what Boundless has done is in that line of the core ethos, and I think it's a lot of the when we started building the Rollup, we were like, we're going to build a public good of education for the Ethereum community, right? And like obviously these things turn into businesses over time because VC money only lasts so long, and the world's real. But at the end of the day, like that core ethos, I think sticks with a lot of the Ethereum community. And excuse me, I think that would that sticks with you, and that I'm not surprised to hear that you value that aspect of this entire thing.
Yeah, I think open source is kind of like the Trojan horse for crypto because, it's like we talk to institutions, they get to kind of riff on the back of a decade-long $1 billion of R&D, right? That's what they don't want to deviate. Yeah, they're like, cool, like you guys did this for 10 years. It's like
thanks, guys.
Yeah, but then that's okay, thanks. We invite them in. But the thing is, they're building on a decentralized protocol. This is where it's different than Web 2. And decentralized protocol is the greatest Trojan horse because now we are disintermediating all of these centralized entities. And so, yeah, it's, open source is the way. I'm really glad Signal's open source. Everything for Linea and Consensus will always be open source. So, yeah.
Declan, may this ride to all-time highs be with you. Be joyful. Enjoy the rest of joyful July. We've got amazing August coming up next, and who knows what. But thanks for joining. Thanks for being a part of the Signal today. It's been great hanging out the last couple of years, and we're gonna see this thing through.
Yep. Great to see you, Andy, and cheers everyone. And yeah, take care. Big summer.
Cheers, Declan. Speak soon. Alrighty, guys. We are live on the Signal. Up next, we've got Michael, the head of research at Nethermind. A lot going on here. I love Declan, man. The guy's just got a lot of stuff to say positively about Linea, about Ethereum, and everything in between. Those guys have been holding off their token for a while. I think that's going to be a good hit with all the hype around Joe Lubin, around Sharplink Gaming, etc. Up next, we've got Michael from Nethermind. We're going to get him up. He's in the back. He's ready to go. This is going to be a fun one. We are live from Sweden, 9:23 p.m. It's the Signal. We're celebrating Boundless mainnet beta. Wish we had some music, some sound effects. Producer's working on it. He's working overtime. We got Michael up here. Michael, what's going on? If I had a drum roll, I'd fucking play it for you, man.
It's great to be here. How are you?
Good, man. Good. Scandinavian summer. It's the Signal day. Having a great day. Markets look great. A lot of stuff is happening. Ethereum narrative revival is in full effect. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks a lot. It's like an amazing day for the community.
Yeah, man, for sure. Broadly for open source, for ZK, for the research community, for interoperability community. So we'll get into that, but I'm just curious, man. What are you spending your time on at Nethermind as of the last couple months? What are you researching? What is some of the technology that you're seeing? What's interesting?
Yeah. So my role at Nethermind is head of research. So basically, Nethermind is a blockchain research and engineering company. It started in 2017. So like for the space, is like relatively old company.
Oh yeah.
We have like over 250 people. So I think like for the space is also like one of the big companies. Maybe not the biggest. I don't think so, but it's
pretty
like
solid,
one of the big. Yeah, it's like a solid team. So as you can imagine, like we are doing like multiple things. We have like multiple arms, like focusing on the various the types of blockchain, various blockchain research areas. But primarily, we are developers of Nethermind execution layer client. you cannot fully trust statistics here because these are very imperfect, but it's like first or second most widely adopted client in Ethereum. So for those who don't know, like execution layer client is basically the software that you run in Ethereum nodes that execute the transactions, right? So basically like every node in the network needs like to go through the code of transactions and like validate, like reach like the state that is like that creates the blockchain, right? Arguably, our client is also like the most performant one, but like here, like opinions may vary. Yeah, so besides like doing the execution layer client, we also like collaborate on the blockchain research and engineering with such a great teams like Starknet, Tyco, World, Arbitrum, Gnosis, and more. We are deep into research. On one hand, on like protocol research, on the other, on zero knowledge. Our expertise in ZK engineering also like allows us to like fully appreciate the signal and like the fact that that we can do proof of consensus of Ethereum, like because like previously what we had, like we relied on either bridges or on proofs that rely on a sync committee, and that's not the level of security that we want to have for the future. So it's like having like the full proof of the full consensus is like really important here. We are a very big infrastructure provider. We run the validators for Ethereum. We are operating in Lido. We run over like 20,000 validators, so it's like 2% of the network. We also participate in various networks as provers. We deeply care about security, so we have audit and formal verification team. The formal verification team is also very much into formal verification of zero knowledge proofs. In the past, we were also formally verifying some parts of risk zero VM. So I think that's it. It's like, I told you, it's like a big company. So many
I'm
topics
bullish. Let's go.
cover.
All right. So what is the number one use case that you are most excited about as a result of the signal?
So, like we see the future of Ethereum to have like 1 billion human users brought to the ecosystem by projects like World or by financial institutions who are also looking into Ethereum. Plus, we will also have like billions of agents, for example, like deployed like by protocols like virtuals. So we see Ethereum as like this place where we really need to count actors in billions, and in that case, you need to have you have like very high demand for on-chain compute and for on-chain data, right? And you just cannot like process all of that. And like with ZK, what you can have is you offload the part of the compute off-chain and only verify on-chain, right? So this is what truly allows Ethereum to scale and to accommodate for these billions of users. And then, like with billions of users, there is also very strong need of having like a verified information about the state of Ethereum, right? So here is where the proof of consensus comes in, because you cannot require from every agent, every user to locally have a copy of a node, right? Maybe like when we have like financial institutions, they will mostly rely on the nodes that they have under their premises. But like for normal users and like for agents, I think it will all rely on the proof of consensus to understand like what's going on the chain.
I was talking to Shiv, the CEO of Boundless, and he was telling me about how their development team spent so much time going back to gather all the historical context of the state of Ethereum to be able to pull this off. You've got years and years of state there that you can go back and access to basically, create these like proofs that can recursively prove all the correctness going back. And it just speaks volumes about not only the Boundless team, but the progress that the ZK space has been making. I mean, it has been 100x's over and over, year over year. What other parts? What other parts of Ethereum or of the broader blockchain space have you seen with similar levels of rapid improvements in, like specs and product design and performance? Is there anything else that rivals the speed of improvement like ZK?
So let me go through ZK first, because my own background is in cryptography. I did a PhD in cryptography around like 2016. And I joined Tartu University for postdoc on ZK. And like back then, like when I started, it was like still like there was like proofs like 𝘱𝘭𝘓 or Pinocchio that were somehow, usable, but like still like nowhere near like the being usable for real life use cases. But then like Graph 16 came out in 2019. We got Plonk, Marlin, we got if Starks. So in 1 year we just like got like a massive speed up in like new opportunities open, because like these new proof systems were like much more friendly for developers to work with, for example, because like they didn't require like a trusted setup per circuit. And then like from 2019, like the progress is like really like crazy, right? It's like 10x year after year, if not better. And it's like, and it's what's amazing here is that you have like this hand-in-hand progress. Like there's like research collaborating with engineering. So on the research side, you have like super strong teams like pushing towards like new schemes like name like Polygon Zero, name Starkware. These are like the greatest of all times in zero knowledge research. But you also like have this like super focused engineering teams like Risk Zero, for example, right? Like that also like focus on like making like this theoretical constructs of like zero knowledge proofs like really usable and friendly for developers. So like I think like it will be like super hard to find like a space that grew so quickly, like ZK. Maybe like client execution. This is like we also like see like Ethereum now pushing like the execution client teams to to deliver more functionality, or more performance. We with layer 2s, like we also see like this push to have like more possibility of processing gas per second, right? So currently we are talking like not about like 15, like 30 gigagas per block. So it's like not fully like 12 seconds of a block, but it's like 2 seconds for execution. But we are talking about like gigagas per second, right? And this also like opens new possibilities, because it also allows us to accommodate for much bigger traffic that I'm sure is coming to Ethereum.
Yeah. So, Michael, I saw a recent post in the technical Ethereum community going around. It was like this graph screenshot where you could fill in which part of the ordering of priorities is most important, and you could go on the website and fill it in on your own. And I saw a big consensus answer was the reduction in slot times to 6 seconds. Is that what you chose? Do you believe that is the #1 priority for scaling Ethereum right now?
I think I would put. I think I would put it like really highly.
Okay.
I think
what would you put above it?
Oh, good question. Maybe something like Fossil. Censorship resilience. Fossil, yes, FOCIL. I don't recall like how this abbreviation is like the full form, but it's like one of the things that will keep Ethereum truly like censorship resilient. But yes, like faster block types are extremely important.
I said slot times. It's block times, not slot times.
Block times. Yes.
Yes.
yeah, at Nethermind, we are also collaborating with Taiko on something called pre-confirmations. So basically, like pre-confirmation is also like very neat concept that allows you to have your transaction like softly confirmed by the proposer before it's even like the block is created, right? So it's like a two-sided deal where the proposal like promises to include your transactions, and in the future I think like will be also it will be also possible to state like how you would like your transaction to be executed and in which context. So I think this is also like very fascinating area because it gives you that even faster block time, and like of course it's like virtually a faster block time, but still.
Yeah. Last thing for you, it's the signal. It's celebration of Boundless mainnet beta. What is Nethermind going to be using the signal for in its development, in its research? What practical use cases will you guys build or be working on as a result of this unlock?
Yeah, so like we are building infrastructure, and but we are also want to contribute to the agentic future of Ethereum to have agents that are, for example, contributing to the core development of the protocols, because we as Nethermind are also like part of this core dev community, right? So we'll be definitely working on this agentic future that will bring this millions of billions of agents to the ecosystem.
Beautiful. So very focused on the agentic side of things then, and trying to facilitate that next part of Ethereum. Okay, Michael, thank you for your time. Thank you for being a part of the signal, and amazing work that you guys have done at Nethermind. Obviously, Thomas has gone on to lead the Ethereum Foundation from his work that he did there. And I mean, it's been a pleasure to, every time I've interacted with your team, it's been great. And thank you for your time. Keep doing the hard stuff. We need you guys, and see you on the other side.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Andy.
Okay. Enjoy. Thank you. Speak soon, buddy. Alrighty, guys, that wraps up the signal. We had an amazing slate of guests today. We had Tomer, we had Shiv, Sreeram, Robinson, Declan, and Michael, all excited about pushing the boundaries of Ethereum with ZK. Truly an amazing 6-guest lineup. I wish Rob was here. He would have enjoyed this one. I'll get him next time. Thanks for watching The Signal. We have a last-minute guest from a new hire in the crypto ecosystem, coming from the Web2 AI space into crypto. We have Sandeep, who's now the chief of AI at Story Protocol. I wanted to get him on to welcome him into our space, get him a part of the Rollup, get him acclimated to the show. This guy has a really strong track record of accolades from different PhDs, professor work, and a background in AI. So excited to have him on. Again, shout out to Boundless, mainnet beta celebration. Thank you for tuning into The Signal. We've got a huge audience today, 9K viewers right now. We're going to get Sandeep on here. We're going to talk AI. We're going to talk Story Protocol. Markets ripping. ETH ETFs with staking are probably coming to a brokerage near you. Coming soon. BTC looks great. ETH looks great. All the memes look good. Charts are amazing. Everyone's vibe is just up. I mean, I tell you, we used to do these pods, and we've done them twice now. Through a bull, through a bear, through a bull, through a bear. And the vibes in the bull is just, man, everyone's having a good time. Everyone's hanging out. And that's been the vibes today. It's 9:40 p.m. We're in Stockholm. I need a beer after this. I don't smoke cigarettes, but if I did, I would have one. Maybe I'll put another piece of nicotine gum in, but I'm chilling. We got Sandeep in the back. We're going to get him up. Last one of the day. Big announcement from the Story Protocol ecosystem. Let's get Sandeep up on the stage. Sandeep's in the back. He's coming in from the Web2 world. We're welcoming him to the dark side. He's probably way smarter than I'll ever be, but that's okay, because we are all one and the same in this world together, living together, breathing the same air. Sandeep, welcome to the Rollup. Congratulations on the new role. How you feeling, man?
Great. It's great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, look, man, there is a lot happening in the AI space. You have quite the background in studying these different systems, work like this. Tell us a story. How'd you get connected to SY, to Story? Why is this a compelling enough opportunity to shift careers, to shift your focus? Time is money. Your energy is all that matters in this world. Why did you choose this endeavor?
Oh yeah, great question. So I actually met the Story team while I was a prof at UT Austin and giving a talk. And I talked about my PhD thesis at Stanford on what was called cloud robotics or fleet learning. So the question of interest was, well, how can you augment inference, learning, and control between, say, swarms of autonomous vehicles and drones using cloud computing? So I talked to them about how one key problem is distributed data collection. And when I became a professor at UT, I started thinking about how you incentivize people to collect interesting training data, and data is intellectual property. So we kind of hit it off, and that's how I kind of joined as an AI advisor. And then soon the team liked me, so I'm joining as Chief AI Officer.
Beautiful. Awesome. All right. So one big question that Story gets a lot that I'm going to throw at you is, in the world of AI, it does seem like we have trained these models on what is effectively hundreds of thousands of hours of unpaid labor. They go out, they scan the internet, they get whatever data they want. In fact, I've actually heard of some of these models going out and figuring out ways, and teams are raising to go behind paywalls or even open paywalls and use that data as well to train specific models based on paywall data. So in this world of endless internet swiping, let's call it, to be politically correct, why does IP matter? What is the new version of IP that matters in the age of AI? And how do you combat those who say IP does not matter in this new era? It is something that is around for the previous print era, but does not apply to the internet and the agentic era.
Well, that's a great question. So this actually starts from even before I met the Story team. My lab was working with a Fortune 500 semiconductor company, and they were testing out their AI algorithms for video search, right? And they came to me saying, look, we need an evaluation data set, and we really care about IP because of our lawyers and so forth, right? And what they cared about is saying that essentially all public data sets have a non-commercial license. Therefore, they wanted us to collect data. So I asked them, well, in this world of generative AI, can't you just use synthetic data? And they said, look, sometimes generative AI models that create imagery could have been trained on IP unsafe data, and they cannot even use synthetic data, especially in the European market, right? So that's an anecdote from a real Fortune 500 company. But more broadly, getting to your question, what you were talking about is the first wave of foundation models that often illegally scrape the internet, and they operate on text, right? And actually now you're starting to see things changing. For example, Cloudflare, they recently had this pay-per-crawl thing where they're blocking a bunch of blogs and websites and making sure you need to pay before illegally scraping that, right? But what Story is really focusing on is the next generation of foundation models, which we call multimodal, and they're for physical AI. So what I mean by that is they understand video, they understand audio, and they're taking decisions in the physical world. And you can't just scrape that data on the internet. It's going to come from your sensors, like your iPhone, your dash cam, and so forth. And those are all different forms of intellectual property.
Okay. I appreciate that answer, and I didn't mean to be too pointed, but I had to ask. Okay, so let's talk about some of your work in edge AI and autonomous systems. How will your background in these two fields help Story further entrench itself as being the rails for AI native data licensing? Maybe you could walk us through kind of like how you see that playing out, and what some of your previous research and learnings will allow you to help push this forward for Story.
Yeah, I'll give you a concrete example from my PhD thesis that kind of seeded this idea in me, right? So the problem was on fleet learning. So every autonomous vehicle measures about 4 terabytes of rich data per day, video, LiDAR, and radar, just in an hour and a half, actually. So if every robot in the world can only send 1% of its data to the cloud, how can you maximize accuracy but minimize systems costs? So I took a really practical approach. Every day at Stanford as a grad student, I would turn on my dash cam and measure my commute data. And that was gigabytes of data, and that's intellectual property. So what I would see is kind of rare events. self-driving cars being tested on the road. So we built this like kind of where's Waymo detector and really small computer vision models running in your iPhone. And I would actually pay as a grad student for my limited budget, pay Scale AI and Google to actually label this, right? So as I kind of finished this, it was just one grad student, it couldn't scale. And then I started thinking about, okay, incentive mechanisms. How can I scale this? Are there crypto economic incentive mechanisms? But moreover, if I train a model on your data, my data, and a bunch of other people's data, and the marginal contribution to accuracy of your data is much higher, you should get a higher payout, right? So there's natural questions about how to license this data, how to remix it, create new versions using synthetic data to boost model accuracy. And that's all IP that can be naturally kind of like stored efficiently and encoded well on the Story blockchain. And we can talk more about that too.
Yeah, so like there's this concept of like basically what you're kind of getting to is like data as IP, and it can effectively, I'm considering it can reimagine how agents learn, pay, operate, interact, etc. I'm just curious, like out of the blue, what's your most radical or hot take as to like where that is headed? Like what is data as IP? How does that change the way AI agents can like interact with each other, interact with humans, learn, pay for things, operate? Like what's your spicy take here?
Yeah, I have two of them actually. So the first one is just when I was reading about Story before I gave my first talk, I saw this interesting case study that's actually real. So let's say Justin Bieber has a new song, right? That's IP. And then you create a generative AI remix of that, and then I stream it, right? So the dividends or the royalties should flow to you as well as the original creator, who is Justin Bieber, right? That's a graph kind of relationship. So I saw that on their website, and I immediately was like, well, that's the same thing we see in AI. Because I have a raw image from my dash cam. I might send it to you to label it. That's your intellectual property. You've remixed that. But then I could send it to an AI agent. Okay, it's not even a human. They could be running Stable Diffusion and creating that same image from my dash cam, but in fog, sleet, or snow to stress test an autonomous vehicle. So the combination of real data from agents is valuable. So that's one take. The other is totally contrarian. It's actually some research from my lab, and my students have actually incubated it as a startup called Synthify. So everybody today is talking about foundation models for video, audio, and text, because you and I naturally as humans understand that. Yeah. But the bulk of data in enterprises, whether it's medical ECG records, time series, or it could be energy demand patterns, or in crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum, stock market prices, are all time series. So you can think of trading bots that kind of on-demand license Bloomberg or different financial analytics data and then make decisions on chain. That's also where IP kind of comes in as a data input to these models.
I'm curious more about like the physical world of these things. I feel like a lot of the AI conversations that happen on podcasts and maybe I need to expand my podcast listening, but a lot of it is around in the digital context, but I just can't help but think that the physical, like the implications of the physical world are so much more, important and present in our physical lives. And perhaps, the trend is already accelerating towards, heavier digital usage, but, you spent quite a bit of time training robots at Stanford. Do you have any stories that were particularly like you came up with a hypothesis, you had your independent and dependent theses or variables, and you did these experiments and things and trainings? Was there anything in like situations in particular that completely changed your perception or worldview of how these robots may act, or what different situations garner different results? Like, is there anything that like particularly rings a bell from your robot training days that you think is interesting to share?
Yeah, definitely. So there are many of them, but fundamentally, we're definitely moving into the world of physical AI. That's echoed by even Jensen Huang at NVIDIA, and it's all multimodal. So you need to understand audio, you need to understand radar data for autonomous driving, video, and so forth, right? So you need to coalesce these different streams. But the key lesson I got from that, and by the way, my grad students train real robots all the time at UT Austin, is it's much harder to generate physical decisions in the world than just spit out the next token in text, right? And that you need a bunch of randomization. You need, let's say I'm trying to train a robot to cook. I need to see different homes, different recipes, different manipulation, egocentric video from across the globe. And that's where crypto comes in, because you can crowdsource this data at scale like never before.
Very, very interesting. Sandeep, last one for you. I'll let you go. I'm sure it's been a busy day. It's been a long stream for us here. Why does programmable IP matter more for physical AI than for LLMs and image models, or does it?
I believe programmable IP applies to all sorts of training data for foundation models. But like we were discussing earlier, text is largely a commodity. Everybody scraped Reddit, Common Crawl and so forth. The big differentiator is long tail data from the physical world, right? And if I'm going to build a robot, I need to do what's called domain randomization. New scenarios for autonomous driving, fog, sleet, and snow, right? So there is a remix of data where you have the raw data and you have to boost it with synthetic data. That's what NVIDIA is doing in its Omniverse simulator and so forth. So tracking the raw data and derivatives is kind of natural as programmable IP and naturally encoded in a hierarchy or a graph on Stories blockchain.
When you say raw data, that's just like any sort of data that a human would provide an LLM?
That's like an image from your dash cam, right? Or an image from a robot doing a task, right?
Yeah.
That image is not enough. You need more scenarios that are slightly different to give enough variation for the machine learning model to be robust in the physical world.
Yeah. All right, I lied. Quick last one. What's gonna be your main focus next quarter or 2 quarters at Story? What's your key prerogatives? What are you looking to achieve?
Yeah, so we have a new incubation. It's gonna be public next week or at latest 2 weeks. It's fundamentally on what we're talking about, how data is IP and how can we crowdsource licensable IP safe data for physical AI. That's going to be my main initiative, but I'm also going to help out with a bunch of new incubations at Story at the intersection of crypto and AI.
Beautiful. Sandeep, thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us. Just wanted to have a quick chat. I know it's been a big day for you. Appreciate you coming on. Good luck. Welcome to the dark side. It's going to be fun.
There's always in the dark side. Yeah, thanks.
There you go. There you go. Have a great rest of your evening, and looking forward to seeing what you guys can put together.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Pleasure. All right, Sandeep. Cheers, man.
Yeah,
Speak
bye.
soon. Alrighty, guys. That's the signal. That's the new Story AI hire, Sandeep. That's going to be awesome. I know that they have some big stuff coming out next couple of weeks. Can't leak it today, but it's been super, super cool. I'm headed to KBW as well in a couple months. Going to be a great event out there as well. That's also alpha. But tons of cool stuff happening in the Ethereum space, in the ZK space. Again, the signal was a celebration today of Boundless mainnet beta, and everything that they've been working on. Really a great stream today. Tons of guests. The market looks great. We had, I think we're pushing over almost 10K, over 10K here today, guys. Been a great time. Amazing stream. Thank you all for coming on. Really great conversations across the board. I thought were all fantastic. And the last one with Sandeep, every time you hear different AI things, it just really reminds you that, got a lot to learn in that new era. Thank you guys for tuning in. The Rollup TV, the show for live, entertaining, insightful content in crypto. Rob's back soon. We've got more stuff coming. We've got new segments. We've got shows. We've got some new animations, some different sound effects. We're working the producer's ass off. He's already tired today, so we're going to close this out. I saw him laughing a bit at some of the jokes that I was cracking, so that's good. Thank you, guys. Peace.